to see and hear what mixers are all about. We've just gone through the process of plugging in my microphone into channel 1, and I chose not to do the low cut filter. Actually, I will. There's some rumble next door, and I want to cut that out. So I'm going to apply the low cut filter, which will cut out everything below 100 hertz. I have adjusted my gain, so I've got a nice strong signal that hits the 0 mark at the peak when my voice peaks. It actually needs to go up a little more. 1, 2, there we go. That's a little better. Okay, I've played with the EQs. I've added just a little bit of low frequency because I like what that does to my voice, but generally you want to do this sparingly, if at all. And then I could pan this to the left, I could pan this to the right, but in this situation, I am doing a full stereo mix and everything is going to both channels because I have no desire to separate any of these channels later on. Now, ideally, this would also be a multi-track recorder that would be recording each channel into an isolated recording, otherwise known as an ISO track, as well as a mixed recording, which is all of the tracks mixed. So now that my channel fader, which is the strength of the volume going out to the recording, is set to unity, then I would go on to the next track. So I will mute this one because I'm done basically setting up this channel.
The goal of location sound is to capture clean, consistent, and intelligible audio.
What you're hearing now is her voice
audio,
over the shotgun mic.
Different variation on
I have already set the gain for her.
The purpose of location sound is to provide dialogue that can be understood.
Maybe needs a little more.
If the audience cannot understand the dialogue, then there was no reason for having a sound mixer on the set.
Okay. Now, I did the same thing for channel 3, which is her lavalier mic, but let's unmute it so we can hear how that sounds and see how that sounds.
The audience should never have to strain to hear what the actors are saying. Sometimes it's impossible to gather usable audio during production. In these cases, the production will need to have the actors re-record the dialogue in a controlled environment.
Okay, so now what you just saw was my microphone in channel 1, the shotgun microphone in channel 2, and her lavalier microphone in channel 3. Now, this right here, I have a stereo feed going into the mixer from my computer, which is playing music from YouTube. So now you can hear me. And, Christine, would you like to read for me?
This re-recording process is called ADR, Automated Dialogue Replacement. For example, if the production is shooting a scene that involves special effects like wind machines, the dialogue is going to be unusable.
You'll see that her voice is competing with me and competing with the music. So in this case, I could turn my microphone down and I could turn down the music as well.
Hear the dialogue for effect. In these cases, the location sound should still be recorded as clean as possible, as this effect is best achieved in post-production. While location sound equipment has certainly changed since it was first used in the late 1920s, the art of recording quality dialogue on location is pretty much the same.
Okay, so now what I would do is, what I've determined is I can see which one of her microphones I like better. So let's see what that sounds like. Would you continue reading, please?
Don't let new gadgets and equipment distract you from your goal: clean, consistent, and intelligible dialogue. While new gear may take the place of some of the equipment mentioned in this book, the techniques offered in the chapters that follow will long outlast the technology. Remember, technique will always trump technology. Good audio cannot improve the story or subject matter, but bad audio will pull the audience out of the story or make it difficult to focus on the subject matter.
Okay, so what you're hearing now is a mix of her shotgun microphone and her lavalier. So I was muting her two microphones. This is her shotgun, and this is her lavalier. So let's listen to that again. So go ahead and talk.
The audience should be wowed and amazed by the cinematography and performances. If someone notices the sound work in a film, then the sound department did its job incorrectly. The sound should be transparent. The audience should feel as though they are standing in the room with the actors during the scene, not listening through microphones. The person responsible for gathering the location sound is called the sound mixer.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
That last sentence you said was actually perfect for what we're talking about. So what you heard was, in order for my voice to not get in on it, I muted my channel, and then I like the sound of the boom, but I also like the sound of the lav. So instead of muting both channels, I had them both open and mix the boom so it's just a little bit underneath the lav. This is what you could do with the power of live mixing. You can mix your different microphone sources to what sounds best to you. And if you're recording to a recorder that can record ISO tracks, then the editor will have each individual raw track that he or she could then mix as well. In this case, I'm not recording to ISO tracks. I'm just recording a final output. I'm just recording a stereo mix. So everything I do in here is actually being recorded as is. In an ideal world, you will be recording ISO tracks as well as your mix track. So let's go ahead and talk again, and we can hear everything all at once.
The person responsible for gathering the location sound is called the sound mixer, or
1, 2, 3.
although there are a
One,
host
two,
of other
three.
pseudonyms
1,
that they
2,
work
3.
under. Production sound mixer, sound recordist, location sound recordist, location sound mixer, mixer, recordist,
Now I'm
audio
gonna fade
operator,
her out.
sound man, sound woman, sound guy, sound dude, sound chick.
Hear how that sounds? You still hear the music? And then we'll fade out the music. And now it's just my voice. And we can bring her back up again.
She started to say hi, but realized that she didn't even know my name. She said,
And
"Hey."
maybe a little music.
After a brief pause, she conceded defeat and simply said,
And I could bring
"Sound
everything
guy."
down
We
at
both chuckled.
once.
It happens a lot. Nothing could be further from the truth.
So that is the power of a mixer right there. The power to adjust the strength of the signal coming in and the strength of the signal going out relative to the other signals going out. That is what mixing is all about. And on top of it, you can also play with the power of each frequency of the signal, the lows, the mids, and the highs. And if you want to be able to maybe say have my voice just go to the left channel and her voice go to the right channel, we can do that. Go ahead and talk some more.
Sure. Nothing could be further from the truth. The sound mixer faces far more obstructions than the camera operator, but because
1, 2,
these
3.
obstacles are actually invisible sound waves, no one notices them.
Yes,
That
that's
is
true.
until people listen back to the scene.
1,
They'll
2.
notice your work, but only if there is a problem.
Very good, Christine. Very good.
Yeah, just all off the top of my head.
So that's the cool thing about this mixer is if I was recording to a recorder here, everything on the left channel, as you could see, would be my voice, and everything on the right channel
It's impossible to make poor sound better in post.
would be her voice. And if you've worked with Premiere, Audition, or any audio program, you'll see that when you have a stereo file in there, you could take your left channel and right channel and separate them. So in editing, if you do this little panning technique I just told you about, you can actually take my voice and make it its own file, and take her voice and make it its own file. But you have to make sure that you pan our individual voices to different sides of the stereo spectrum, one to the left and one to the right. Again, if you are using something like the Zoom F4 or any multi-track recorder that has built-in mixing capabilities like this, you will be able to record each track individually on its own, and this panning won't be necessary. It's just an additional thing you can do with these mixers if you have a limited recording hardware situation. So there's so much more we could talk about with mixers. We could send one signal out to speakers and a different signal out to the director's headphones. I could send just one or two channels to the boom operator, and while I listen to all the channels at once. Basically, you have the capability of sending different mixes to different people. Um, but that's something that's a little more advanced, and that's something that you probably learn a little more on set. But if you are into learning more about mixers and those particular capabilities, just check out the modules because there's a great video, albeit the guy's voice is a little boring, but he does a very good job at explaining all the ins and outs of mixers. Watch that video, and then he'll talk about these things that we call aux or auxiliary mixes. And it's pretty cool what this little box can do.